Hello there, welcome back. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm happy I'm here too. How have you been? I love watching that intro. Very few people are in my inner circle and they're just about all in that intro. Do you recognize any of them? How wonderful. I'm so glad that you're back. My name is Suzanne Suchan. Because of Suchan, you can too. And this is the You Can with Suzanne show. Woo-hoo-hoo. All right, so let's see. Anything I want to update you on? Not right away. Actually, there is. I got to share something with you. I'm so excited. I finally got my bachelor's degree in metaphysical science. Yeah! I'm so excited. I didn't get it in the mail yet, but I got the notification that I passed, and I got it, and it was a lot of work, and I'm super mega excited. So yay for that. Yay me! You can do it. Oh, yeah, that's the name of the show. All right, so I have a question for you guys. Have you ever been doing something, you're going about your life, and all of a sudden you stop and you're like, oh my gosh, I think I've been here before? Or have you met somebody and you kind of make that eye thing, you're like, I know you. Or you think I know this person. Or have you ever felt like a soul connection with somebody? There's a lady I work with who I've met, and we are like soul sisters. We're super, super connected. It's just amazing, crazy. Have you ever had something like that? What about a deja vu? I was teaching, I dreamt I was teaching in the fourth grade class that I actually was in fourth grade. I dreamt I was teaching in there. And then in my waking hours, I was like, well, that's never going to happen because I'm not a teacher, and that was a cool dream though. But guess what? Years later, like 15 years later, I taught in my fourth grade class for junior achievement as a volunteer. And so I'm standing there, I'm teaching, and everything was like the same, and I was like freaking out. It was awesome. So our guest today, she's been here before, but today we're going to talk about something really specific and different, and it involves past lives. It's a thing. So please help me to welcome Carol Ruth. Yay!
Hi, thank you. Nice to be here.
It's wonderful to have you back.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Deja vu is a big deal. We meet someone for the first time, and I know you. Where do I know you from? Gee, and then you start naming what school you went to, where you worked, what playground you were at, maybe. Just to get real specific, because sometimes you get down to like childhood. You think, well, maybe I knew them when they were young. Maybe you have to go even further back, like what country did you live in your last life? Maybe that's where you knew them. Or maybe back in Greek or Rome, or Atlantis.
But if you ask somebody that, you might get looked at like you have three heads.
Yeah, that's happened.
So what is exactly, can you enlighten us a little bit? Like if somebody says, like what does past lives mean? Have we all lived before?
Not necessarily. Nothing is for certain. With soul vibration and traveling through universe, other planets even, there's no definite how long ago did you live? Do you have to be out of the body a long time? Can you snap right back in? Which is what I did the last time, life before this one. There's no set of rules for this. Some of the religions in India believe reincarnation. That's kind of the word. In the Bible, it talks about Jesus being incarnate again. I kind of believe that he's been here more than once already. We talk about the second coming, but that might be his 10th or 12th or 100th coming. Okay, so, but it does mention that when we talk about his birth, and I believe it's Luke, where they talk about the incarnation. And some of the Bibles may not have that word, but some of them do.
Yeah, because some religions do not believe in reincarnation. I think, isn't it the Roman Catholics?
It's the Tyndale Bible that says incarnation.
Because I was raised going to Roman Catholic.
Yeah. Now,
and they're like anti-everything.
They are, aren't they? Yeah, they're anti-dreams, and yet Daniel had the dreams, and Joseph was interpreting the Pharaoh dreams, and Daniel interpreted the writing on the wall. So we have these supernatural, metaphysical happenings even in the Bible. The wise men followed the star, but what they're really doing is following the heavenly patterns, announcing that, Christ was going to come in, not just a king, but a master. The master of the Christianity religion is really what that is.
And wasn't he also a Reiki master?
Well, he was a healer, that's for sure. I'm not sure if we'd call it Reiki, maybe back in those days. Actually, he spoke Aramaic, I guess, or Hebrew or Yiddish or whatever he spoke. It'd be nice to really have a good, raw, clear-cut interpretation of the words, he actually said. I guess John, the book of John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, would be the book that is the closest to reality, and he was supposed to have been a witness and been right there. But the others were written well after, 60, 80 years later, after the crucifixion most likely did occur. So
how do we know if we've lived before?
Well, you want to go to, like, on a trip. You want to go to maybe like I might want to go to Paris. I've always thought about Paris. And sometimes people will say, well, what city would you go to? And I always say Paris. And maybe Greek, maybe Egypt, and also Kyoto, Japan. I would like maybe to see that. But Paris was always the first answer. And it turns out in my past life, which I am in the middle of writing a book about, I actually studied fashion design between 1940 and 1943 in Paris. But I was German, and I found out about the White Rose, and possibly had one of their pamphlets that they were handing out, and the SS killed me after I came home, where I lived in Franstein, Germany, which is in the Rhine Valley near France, and it's near the Rhine River also. And this particular life hit me when I was only about 6 or 7 years old. And then repetitions of this kept coming back in at different stages in my life, and meeting one particular boyfriend who actually was from Germany. And I had this dream 6 months before I met that person. And there I was walking, kind of halfway running, to the house, and I saw what I looked like, and it was my 18th birthday, and then all of a sudden these boots, I could hear these boots going chit, 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 with the legs on the road near the house. And so that was back in 1976, and I didn't make a lot of it. I knew it was a past life, but I wasn't putting a lot of it together yet in 1976. What happened in the last maybe 5 years, so we're talking maybe about, with the coming of the shift around 2012. So I was watching a lot of Ancient Aliens before that year. They started a few years before that, I think. And I was watching that, and certain things about the universe and how, aliens would come in and build the pyramids. And it started to make me think, because they used to believe that the Earth was only 6,000 years old, but we now have proven it's millions of years old.
Right.
And so how many lifetimes could you have had? They've also proven that we didn't really evolve from monkeys. Maybe they are related to us, but they have footprints of humans under a dinosaur print. So there were humans, whether they hid a lot because they might have gotten eaten or something. So we could have had a life back there. Or on another planet, and that's in some of the books. I've studied with Brian Rice and Dick Sutphin, and they both have books on past lives. But the first time I read a Dick Sutphin book, it was around 1977 or 78 when I bought the first book. And he talked about soul groups coming in.
Tell us about soul groups.
Yeah, so you're like in an organization, like you mentioned Junior Achievement, or maybe like the holistic group downtown that you're with. And all these people have something in common, and you have a camaraderie, and you're all kind of having a same goal. And then you might start to think, why are we so connected? We've only known each other a half a year or two, maybe 5 years by now. I think the group's fairly new. And so you might start to think, well, where did I know Paula before, or Deborah, and where did I know these people before? I don't know all the people in the group, but there's a connection. So the soul group could have been, as he said, I believe it was, I'm not sure of the country. It was a cave in South America, and it was probably very inland. They had a whole group of people were killed at the same time with spears. I kind of remember this story. And so you think, okay, if we all died together and then we came in all to Buffalo, New York, this time, or we moved here from another place, but we got together with this holistic group or this medical group or whatever group you're in, and you just have this connection. You might have all been together and died in the same vicinity of World War II. You might have been comrades in a group, going to a certain hill or city, and all of you, didn't make it. So there's another type of group. Death isn't the end. It's only the body. You get out of the body, and then you realize it's the soul that's alive. So there's where your eternal life comes in, that religions talk about. You don't die, you have eternal life. And it is true. Now, Jesus actually proved that by rising, from the dead and then ascending. And in reality, did that really happen? Who knows for sure, except those people that would have been there.
Right.
And we didn't have iPhones,
right?
Cameras to video the event. But the ascension is the soul going back, as we call it, home, and possibly having a conference to find out, should I come in right away? Are the conditions right for my soul to have the experience I need to do in the next life? Or should I wait until 1,000 years goes by and then come in, when conditions are much different and new inventions are there? Or maybe the whole earth goes back to cavemen, and now you come in and you start to, bring in those ideas that you knew in this life and try to make new inventions. And it's maybe a little hard to visualize, but maybe that's already happened.
Now, do you think that before you're born, that like you meet with all the bigwigs up there?
Absolutely.
And that you decide, or the masters tell you what your tasks or goals need to be?
I hate to use the cliche. That's a very good question. I hear it all the time in interviews. But really, it's Zowie. I picture a big conference room table, and God is over there, and he's like all light and emanating. And you've got this brochure in front of you, and you're saying, yeah, that looks good. No, I don't know that. And you hit a page, and you say, okay, this time I'm going to be killed by the person I killed. Yeah, I'll sign up for this. Bum, bum, bum. Come in somebody's body as a baby, and voila, start living the karma to rectify. And karma, by the way, is not good or bad. It's a balancing. It's kind of like a teeter-totter. So karmic lessons can mean a lot of different things. And astrologically, you can see what some of the issues that you are going to do in this lifetime. That's what the chart is. It's this personal experience in this life, in this particular life. And then if you are smart enough and you know your exact time, you'll see your ascendant minus 17 Taurus, and that is around May 8th. So that was my last birthday. And that's true of
My
other
daughter's
people.
birthday is May 9th, and that's who I was speaking to on the phone when I was running in here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But what is her, but that's her life this time. My birthday, May 8th, was in that last life I was talking about
Now,
in
how did
Germany.
you get to find that out? How did you validate
Well,
this?
there are some books that talk about past lives. One is The 12 Doors to the Soul by Jane Edwards, and I don't know if it's if it's out of print. I managed to get another copy because I had a copy and I don't know what happened to it. So I bought another copy. Isabel Hickey talks a lot about it in her book, Cosmic Science.
About ways that you can validate?
Yes. Saturn represents, it's called the Lord of Karma. And so where your Saturn is in your chart by sign, it tells something about your personality. And your Saturn in Aries would show you might have been a warrior before. You might have been a fighter or an advocate, or you might have been interested in the progression of children's lives and the rights they have, no matter what culture you may have been in. In this particular culture, Buffalo, New York, US of A, whatever. But if you're in another country, it would maybe be something else. And then being right by the 5th, 6th, we discussed this 6th house of work. So now you have to be an advocate for the rights of new beginnings or maybe metaphysics. You now have your degree. This could show that your work involving metaphysics might be a fight that you have to bring before people who don't believe what we know. And it is a knowing. It's just a knowing. Validating, proving that you lived before. I'm not really sure if my name was Ava Schneider, but that's the name I've always had. Ava has always been the name. Schneider, I'm not sure, but this is what I found out Schneider meant. Tailor. And this lifetime, my father was Polish and a tailor, and my mother was German, and she learned to sew too. And
Wow.
she learned from him, and they used to work together. And the reason I mentioned Polish and German is because the Germans actually tried to annihilate the Polish. And I was born during World War II. So here I'm coming in to two factions that may not love each other. And I studied to be a designer of fashion in Paris. So I come right back in to this idyllic situation where I could be sewing when I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
And I had picked up a needle and I was making stitches when I
Wow.
was 3. They gave me that stuff to keep busy in the tailor shop.
Huh.
Yes, and I
How
know
cool
that.
is
I know
that?
that's cool. But when I found out Schneiderman Taylor, I thought, whether my name was that or not in that last life, that made a lot of sense to me. So that is an addition. And plus, I love Project Runway. Who would have thunk that? Now, I was watching Project Runway before I got into some of the stuff about the past life as in depth as I have. But I did, when I was writing a short story, this is how it started. In 2009, in June, I took a creative writing class at UB for short stories. And I asked her, I had a dream, could I elaborate on the dream? So then I started describing the dream. She wanted us to give a voice to the story. So I started giving a voice to myself and this other person and the other characters that I saw in the dream. And so that's how the book is evolving from that dream, because I took that class. And I didn't need to take that class. I could have graduated without it, but I thought, I want to stay one more class and I want to see how good I can be at writing. It was short stories. How can you, fail with a short story? And I got a good grade, and it was an interesting story. So I took that just about a year and a half ago, and I reread it. I finally found the folder. I thought I had lost it, and I
Wow.
how can I write this story again? On my computer, of course, folder. And I finally found it, and I printed it out. And then I reread it, and then I started exaggerating and elongating different things and adding scenes in and meditating. back there to see what did I do, what was I doing when I was 10, when I was 12. I was trying to get certain. Did I go to Austria for Christmas? These things are all possible. When you look at photographs of this, and it's not easy to do if you lived back in another lifetime that didn't have photographs, but during the 40s in Germany and Europe, you have, I was wondering how many horses would have been there, because I felt like I did weaving of like blankets for horses.
Oh.
And so I looked, and at the time they had weaving going on in homes, a whole room. The loom would be the size of maybe an 8 by 10 room.
Yeah, wow.
And so I found some that were through the 30s, because I was born in 1925. So I, knew that in the 30s was what I was looking for. What could I have been doing, in the house? And I knew I lived in the vineyards because I was running through the vineyards in the Greene.
Wow.
So my family did make some of those wines that you find from the Rhine Valley in Germany.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I haven't gotten into that as much, but I know that and I'm still working to go there. But this thing about Paris, what happened was, Paris was never bombed, as was a lot of France around that area. And what happened was the French made an armistice with the Germans, so they wouldn't bomb everything. So they were kind of enslaved. And so the Germans took Paris over. There was actually a Nazi flag hanging from the Eiffel Tower. Yes. And so here I am in 1940, and this happened just around that time, able to go to Paris to study, because I was German and we were allowed to take it over. Not necessarily a teenager, but we were allowed to go there and study. And so I studied with French people, and I have a couple of people that I think I studied with. I've bought fashion books from that era, so I can look at these people. What type of clothing were they making, and what was popular? Women in Europe, especially in France, grew rabbits so they could have fur coats.
Oh. Yeah.
And they made their shoes out of wood. They carved them because they couldn't get leather. So I found out a lot of interesting things that you might not even think about. The way they tailored the clothes, the way they made in the 50s, how they made the gowns wider because the war was over. So they had more fabric.
Wow.
Yes. So the one man, and I can't think of his name right now, he went to Berlin, I think it was 14 times, to keep the headquarters of fashion world in Paris, because Hitler wanted to move it to Berlin.
Wow.
And somehow he convinced him that people that worked with sequins and stitchery, that wasn't learned overnight, and these were generations of people that were working. Grandmothers, great-grandmothers had done this work, and this was not something that people in Berlin were going to pick up right away.
So he said, let him keep it?
Yeah, Hitler had his own fashion regime, which was the good old Drindel, they called it. But the German women didn't want to do that. And I forget which German general's wife was very involved. I can't think of it, but she liked Paris fashion. And then when they took over Paris, all the soldiers and their wives moved there, so they were right in the Paris headquarters of the world.
Wow.
So the German women were not going to follow Hitler's thoughts about fashion.
Yeah.
He didn't even want them to wear lipstick or anything like that. Now, I need lipstick because I don't look very alive unless I have a little color.
I agree. Yeah, I like having a little splash of color going on there.
Lipstick's cool, yeah.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that people that have recurring dreams, do you think that might be an indication of a past life?
Absolutely, absolutely. I had one so many times. I was probably 4 or 5, and I lived in this house, and we had to live with a family. My parents didn't do so hot at that time. And my sister was in the crib, and I had to be in the bed with my parents, and there was no room for a dresser in this bedroom. That's how we lived like that for at least a year, maybe 2. I kept having this dream about that basement. I don't like basements. And I'm hanging onto this pole in the basement, and the water is swirling like a whirlpool. I don't know how many times I had dreams about drowning. Then I had a dream about walking on a balcony, and then there was Niagara Falls. Well, it so happened around 80, maybe 5, Madame Louise and I went to the Rainbow Mall, which was a mall at the time.
Yep.
And we came in through the second floor balcony. And in the mall, somebody had done a sculpture of Niagara Falls. And I got the goosebumps like you wouldn't believe, because I had this dream so many times.
Yeah, wow.
And so we worked in that mall several times. But of course, Rainbow Mall is only like 3 blocks from the actual falls.
Right.
When I was 9 years old, I went to the historical building, and on the wall was the Maid of the Mist on a raft standing, going over the falls. And when I saw that, I knew it was me.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So that whole thing was going on since 9 years old with this Niagara Falls, and the dreams when I was only 4 with the whirlpool. So
well, we're starting to get
talk about
to the end of the
recurring
show,
dreams.
so I do want to
Sure.
mention that you have an event coming up at the end of this month.
Yes, we do. And I say we because there are many expert psychics and mediums and healers. And Steve Barr comes in from Ohio.
Wow.
With his gemstones. He's part, if you went to the gem show a few weeks back,
Yep.
He's got some fantastic items.
Yeah.
And we have lectures. Michael Bastine will be there. And
When is the event?
the event is April 28th and 29th at Michael's Catering and Banquets on Southwestern Boulevard in Hamburg. Very easy to find.
And is there a fee to get in?
Yes, $7 gets you in, and it goes to Sadie Safe Harbor. They're a canine rescue group, and this time we're going to, on the patio, before you go in, there's going to be some dogs there if people want to adopt.
Puppies, doggies,
Yes, puppies,
yeah.
dogs, whatever. They're going to bring some animals also, so it's
Okay.
a worthy cause. They're a great group, and they're working to help get the word out about the event.
Wonderful. And if somebody wants to get more information, where do they go?
Well,
On you or the event, real
yeah,
quick.
you can go to my website, which is posted on the screen, or you can go to sunmoonpsychicexpo.net.
Wonderful.
And if you want to be a vendor or you want to have a booth, you can download the application there.
Sweet.
Yes.
All right. We made it. We did it. All right. Just in the nick of time, I am told. So that's all the time that we have today. That went so fast. I thank you so
Yes.
much for joining us. I thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Carol Ruth, for
Nice
sharing
to be here.
her experiences and her story and her history. And I am Suzanne Suchan, and I'll see you again next week. Because remember, if Suzanne, no, what is my saying? Because if Sue can, you can too. I'll see you next time, everybody. Bye.
Ooh.